Welcome back. Well, the year 2023 is coming to an end, and another new development from government during this week, where the federal government announced a 50% reduction in transportation costs along 22 interstate routes during the Yuletide season. Now, according to President Tinubu, he wants Nigerians to travel within Nigeria to wherever they want to meet their loved ones without the extra burden of paying exorbitant prices for interstate public transportation. Now, a special discounted holiday season fare on road transport and zero fare by rail across Nigeria. All of this and more is what we'll be discussing today, even though the NRC has said you have to book your train ticket before you come to the train station. So don't expect that you just walk into the train station and then everything would just move smoothly. All of this is what we'll be analyzing with Ademario, a Skype guest analyst. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma.
Good afternoon, Ademario Emmanuel. How are you?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. It's safe to say Merry Christmas.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I can feel the efficacy of the Christmas in your face.
Well, we have to look like what the season is saying right now, so that is why. A quick one. The federal government has, of course, announced 50% reduction in transport fare for Nigerians, for people that are traveling by buses, and then, of course, zero transport for people that are traveling by train. I'd like to get your own opinion on this to start with.
Yeah, firstly, we must understand two things. Okay. Number one, that as Nigerians, there are things that Nigeria wants during this festive period.
Okay.
Instead of the deduction in the cost of transportation during this critical period and time that we find ourselves as a country, I think what the government ought to do is to look inward and address the issue of exorbitant prices of fuel across the country. The question now is, how many persons will have access and opportunity to this 50% discount? Now, as far as the Southeast is concerned, we have some of those vehicles that will be en routing Anambra, Owerri, Aba, Nsukka, Akwa Ibom, Ebonyi, and others. Now, the question is, how many vehicles does these companies have that could convey good numbers of people per day? Now, if you look at the list, we have 51 persons per day. 51 persons per day. Now, whereby a place like Anambra, as at from on the 18th of this month, we already have good numbers of people traveling on daily basis, whereby you see about 100, 200, 300 persons traveling to the southeast. It means that that option, not the position of the government of the discount, does not really solve the problem. We must be sincere, it does not solve the problem. We cannot continue to shy away from the truth as citizens of this country. And for those that have advised Mr. President to actually a kind of key to that suggestion, there are those that don't want Mr. President to succeed as far as this country is concerned. They should have converted that money and see how far it can go in fuel reduction for the country. So, and this would have actually stepped down the cost of transportation for all Nigerians, not just for some set of persons alone. I think there is need for us to begin to be sincere and holistic with our intentions. So this intention is not holistic enough. It is just meant to make money for some set of persons in government, and that is what it is, and there's no apologies to that. We've started addressing this in different platforms, and we're also looking forward to put up a letter to the ruler by tomorrow, our position paper to Mr. President, and directly to the SGF and the Chief of Staff to the President. They will be getting our position paper on that. How on earth will you say you are giving 50% discount? How can this be monitored? Who are those that are going to be in charge? Who are those going to monitor those parts? Who are those that will be accredited to enter those vehicles? A situation whereby somebody who could afford to transport himself and his family to the southeast will end up being part of those that will now come for this 50% discount. Automatically, the intention of it is not achieved. So the best way the government should have gone was a total reduction in fuel price, and let the fuel dealers be taken care of, and let the cost of fuel come to 300 or 350. Then this will automatically cut down the cost of transportation across the country. I think this is the position of the entire Nigerian youth, without any fear or biasness. Thank you so much.
I think this 50% reduction in bus fare and the zero price for train has solved anything so far?
The truth is this, that for the train, how many states do we have, except people, if you want to, a kind of, for example, if you are coming from Abuja, if you are to board train, you have to come to Utakpe, or you go to Ajakuta direct, which you would have ended up spending money. If you have gotten to Kogi and you are going to Awuchi, or you are going to Agbo, or you are going to Uromi, you will just proceed your journey automatically. Because from Abuja to this area will be costing you about 5,000, 7,000. Now, automatically, you will definitely get a bus or a vehicle that will be taking you for 15,000, 20,000, instead of you going to queue. Now, the 50% too should also be looked at. At the end of the day, the stress, a lot of persons will end up squeezing themselves inside the train. Now, booking ahead, we all understand the way Nigerians work as a country. There are some persons who has brothers and uncles there. We turn it to another business entirely. Okay. It is with my knowledge and your knowledge that when the train started working, some persons started selling fake tickets. And some persons, there are some coaches in the train that will be left empty. Before you know, they kind of bring in people that will not buy tickets, and they'll give them a lower discount. So if this has been happening before now, that's to tell you the worst will happen at the cost of this 10%. So the truth is this, that some persons will benefit from this. It is not for the generality of the entire country, not the citizenry. The best way the government would have gone, that would have eased the transportation of everybody traveling during this festive period, should have been that the federal government should have called all fuel sellers or fuel dealers, the NNPC and others, call them for a meeting and ask what can the government do for them to kind of bring down the cost price of fuel to 300 or 350. And this would have eased the pains and burdens, and it will also reduce the cost of food commodity. So it wouldn't have just deal on issue. It wouldn't have just deal on issue of transportation alone. It would have also curb the high cost of food items during this period. For those that are transporting pepper, tomatoes, onions, and other from the north, all these things have gone to a very high cost at the moment as I talk to you. But if this has been done by the government by looking at cutting down the cost of fuel, it would have reduced a lot of burdens in the life of the entire citizenry of the country. So we are still pleading, we are still calling the attention of the federal government and Mr. President that he should please have a redress on this issue of 50% discount in transportation, that some certain companies will make huge amount of money back to their pocket and go back to compensate some political appointees across the country. So we are pleading that the cost of fuel should be looked into, cut 50%. If it is cut 50%, this would have kind of solved the country problem in at least 60%. It would have solved 60% of the problem of the country, because the cost of food commodity will reduce drastically. The rice that is already 60,000, 65,000, because of the high cost of transportation, would have come to 40,000, 45,000. So we are pleading to Mr. President, on behalf of the entire Nigerian youth and the entire citizens of the country, to have a redress on the issue of the 50% discount on transportation during this period. Thank you.
On the pump prices, because I was just going to get to that. For one of our papers today, that's the New Telegraph, one of the lead story here says fuel pump price rise to 620 naira, 700 naira across Nigeria, even though there's been rumor before now that some states are already buying for fuel for around 700 naira. But then Ipman has blamed they went further and they said panic buying and, of course, hoarding is partly why this is currently being sold for 620 naira, 700 naira at this particular moment. What do you think is actually wrong in this with this?
Festive period like this, it is a culture, it is a tradition in this country that always be skyrocketed by the business tycoons who actually see this season as a season of making money, see this season and this period as the only time to harvest from Nigerians. And it has been culture in the past years. And for me, it is not new and it is not strange. And this is because there is no law in the country that actually have the sellers of the fuel to have a unified amount, cost of selling per liter. So the independent marketers are at liberty, based on what they buy, decide what they are going to sell to their customers. So, but if there is a law that is binding, that fuel price should be this, I think there is nobody. So, and citizens will be free to kind of reach out to security agencies to apprehend any fuel station that is selling beyond the price that Nigerian government says fuel should be sold. But at the moment, I want to let you know that there is no law binding on the independent fuel sellers in the country, that make them to sell. That make them to sell in a particular amount. So, but be it as it may, we are also using this opportunity to also tell our people that this period should not be seen as a period to a kind of make life unbearable, because the cost of fuel, there are still some local communities I'm aware of whereby they are already buying per liter for 1,000 naira in the north. If you go to some part of Borno State, you buy fuel for 1,000, 1,002 per liters, especially those who ride on bikes, who ride on keke napep. So they buy this fuel in a very high cost. So we are only saying that the Nigerian government, as we approach 2024, should begin to look inward on how to kind of solve some of these issues that is making life unbearable, that technically is also paving way for criminal element to strive in the country, because these are part of where crime comes in. So, and if these loopholes are not properly dealt with, you see criminals begin to take advantage of these loopholes, and it makes government intentions not to be properly achieved. And I must say that the Renew Hope agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a very good one. Is something that is coming at the right time. But those that are to drive, the captains that are to drive these visions, must be holistic, must be sincere, must be intentional with all the approaches of solving these problems, especially at this period that the fuel dealers, the independent marketers have to be talked to. But be it as it may, it is so annoying that even in some cities, fuel is already being sold for 700, 750. In some part of Ikiti, some part of Ondo, at the level of the Southwest, I can basically tell. When I was coming over to Lagos, I came by road, and the filling station we bought fuel, the driver bought for 700. I was not happy. So this is a personal experience, not that somebody told me. It's a personal experience. So it means in some other local communities, fuel would have been within the range of 750, 800. But at the level of the north, the report I got was that in some local communities, they're already buying fuel for 1,000 to 1,000 naira per liters. So the government must look at these areas and quickly address it so that life will not be too hard for a lot of persons that will lead them to crime. Thank you so much.
Okay, all right. Still on this issue, I wouldn't love to flog it too much, but then this will be my final question on this 50% transport subsidy. You would agree with me that this has equally affected the prices of food because we have inflation, rising inflation for food security, and then there's still the level of insecurity in Nigeria. Do you think the federal government has actually made proper preparations to actually secure people, not just slash transport fare and all of that? That's one. Now, two, for Katsina, Gombe, Plateau, Delta transporters, they've said they do not know anything about what the president has said about subsidy. So it looks like this thing would actually just benefit some persons, and then there's a whole region that has been cut out of this particular 50% transport subsidy. I'd like to get your opinion in 2-3 minutes.
Now, the truth is this. Let me use my own state as an example.
Okay.
Ondo State, where I come from, is cut off out of the 50%. Go and check the list. Ondo State is not there. Are we now saying that we don't have Ondo State citizens in Taraba, in Gombe, in Ademario, in Brunu that want to travel home for Christmas? We have a lot of them. So are they not Nigerians? Are they not citizens? So that was why I said that whosoever has advised Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on this is an enemy of this country. What we need in this country at the moment is 50% slash of the fuel price. And that is why we have requested the National Secretary of CONISA to quickly submit our position paper to the SGF and to the Chief of Staff to the President, that this decision is anti-citizens of this country. It is meant to harvest huge amount of taxpayers' money to the pocket of some certain criminals in this country, and trying to use the auspices of these owners of companies, of different motor companies, either Inosi, either Ekene Dilichuku, the peace mattresses, God is good. For God's sake, this is appalling. So we are only saying that Mr. President should have a redress on this issue and quickly look at on how to meet immediately with the independent fuel marketers and see how they can settle them and cut the cost of fuel in this country to barest minimum. Let us say 400. If fuel is 400, my dearest sister and Nigerians knows that food commodity will cut off totally to food commodity we automatically cut off to at least 60%. And people will be happy in the country again. And people want to celebrate Christmas.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that. So now let's quickly move to other matters as we wrap up in like 7 minutes. And now to what is bothering on the polity between the parties. I'd like us to take some from the APC, where there's a power tussle between Amosu and Oshomole. Of course, Oshomole is the former governor of Edo State. And then in one of the papers, the Nation has it that Amosu Oshomole exchanged salvos over APC tussle. Then in another paper, that's the Nigerian Tribune has it that Amosu blast Oshomole. And then it continued with accuses him of conducting worst primaries in the history of democracy. And of course, we know what democracy is. Then cautions him from playing blame game in this All-Star as APC chairman. Do you agree with what Amosu has said about Oshomole, that during Oshomole's regime as the APC chair, he conducted the worst primaries in the history of democracy?
In the history of democracy in this country, the role of Oshomole as a governor in Edo State. You see, Oshomole is a politician, and for some of us, we call him professor in politics.
Okay.
He knows how to calculate time. He knows how to calculate opportunity. He know when the enemies is needed. He know when friends are needed. So, and these are the game he has always played in Edo State. And if you discover Oshomole has never been at the receiving end as far as the politics of Edo State is concerned. If he did not get it right at the level of the state, he will get it right at the level of the national, which will sustain him and keep him for the next 4 years. Okay. So if you look at the activities of Oshomole, he is trying to build up himself with all he's doing to a kind of sustained power and become the warlord of the South. And this, some persons, that is the truth, and this some persons are not happy with. So the likes of Amosu will not be too happy because seeing another warlord like Tinubu from the Southwest rising up in the South, South. And by 2027, to break the wing of this set of persons will be very difficult. So from the beginning now, some of them will want to tail the activities of Oshomole to a kind of subpedal and trying to push him at a particular corner. So, and this is the game. So, but the truth is that Oshomole as a person, myself and you will agree that so far so good. Outside the Edo State politics, Oshomole has become a very critical voice in the politically happening of the country at the moment, based on the role he's playing at the course of the budget presentation by different agencies. You will get to discover that he's trying to have a lot of persons are beginning to see him from another different dimension that he meant well for the country. And that is to prove to you that he knows how to play his game. So he will come out to a kind of fight that fight to prove to Nigerians that I'm with you. Going back to Edo, whatsoever he wants, he will play it out to get it. So, but yet, we must not again over-negate the position of Amosu. Amosu, if you check the history of politics, has not really for once been in the school of thought of Oshomole. They have never been. So they can always esteem pleasantry as former governors and others, but yet that entanglement in school of thought and ideology has never been there.
But are you trying to say when it comes to hierarchy, because now you said they are probably both past governors of the state, but then we remember that Oshomole was once Nigerian Labour Congress president. He's a past governor of a certain state, that's Edo State, and of course now he's a sitting senator. I mean, that's just to name a few of what he has done. And yes, I do not believe you would go through all of this. And then democracy was in shambles during his own time as the chairman of APC.
You see, what happened when he was chairman of APC was a clear imposition of installing loyalists. For him, he wanted building a party that those that could be loyal to fight a cause would be in the cycle of power, and which was not satisfactory to some certain persons. You know, as APC chairman, he tried all his best to install, like the role he played in Imo, you know, trying to kind of install a particular candidate. You know, he also tried to do that in Edo and some other states. But be it as it may, I must let us also understand that when you are in office, anyone projecting a candidate to you, you must on your own also estreat such a candidate and see if such a candidate is accepted, not acceptable to his or her people. So this also goes a very long way, and these are areas he got it wrong, and that made some persons to begin to raise dust that as APC chairman, he messed up the party, and he could not really make democracy work the way it should work because most of the primary were not independent. There was imposition and all that. But yet, it is not just him alone. It has been in history. It is an antecedent that even in the PDP, it also happens, whereby imposition and order, but it were all done in a technical way. Okay. But APC being a party that different persons came together from, it was a coalition of different parties that come together to form APC.
Okay.
So there were already cartels and cliques already. So everybody now turned back to their own cocoons to a kind of fight for what could get to them. So that was why it looked as if it was not democratically accepted, some of his process and actions as at then. So, and well, I don't know if you are still going to the issue of River State.
Well, we will get to that maybe tomorrow because we have limited time and my producers are already trying to make me round up because I was actually going to touch on that, but we have limited time.
Yeah.
All right.
So then in conclusion, in conclusion, I want to say this. You can see that democracy has been restored back in Ondo State. Now, the deputy governor is now in acting capacity as governor of Ondo State. Things are beginning to turn around. You can see that any moment from now he's going to present the budget of the state. He's already giving directive. Just today he has announced that 100,000 for all civil servants in the state. But, you know, so all this will actually encourage civil servant morale to be high, to be good ambassadors and citizens in the state. So, democratically there is need for us to put things right in the country. But don't forget, let this message get to Mr. President that we need cut down of fuel price, not transportation price. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Ademario, Emmanuel, DJ Konyesa for Nigeria. Thank you very much for joining us today on the POLITY. All right, our viewers at home, this is where we wrap it up for today for the POLITY. Thank you for staying tuned with us. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same station. Bye for now. I remain Messi Babajide.